and we are from Public Relations 2016 of President University.
So are you guys curious about what is content analysis?
Keep watching this video.
Content analysis is the research technique for the objective, systematic, and quantitative or qualitative description of the manifest content of communication. Inside the content analysis, there are techniques for making inference by systematically and objectively identify specified characteristics of the message. These inferences are about sender of the message itself, or the audience of the message. So it's all about making valid, replicable, and objective inference about the message on the basis of explicit rules. There are two kinds of content analysis. First, conceptual analysis. It is analyzing the existence and frequency of concepts in human communication. And the second is relational analysis. It is analyzing the relationship of concepts in human communication. And then, there are three basic principles of scientific method. First, objectively, systematic, and generalizability. First, objectively, it is analysis is pursued on the basis of explicit rules. It enables different researchers to obtain the same result from the same source. Systematic, it is the content is done to some consistently applied rule where it are only including materials which support the researcher that will be eliminated. And the last is generalizability. It is the result obtained by the researcher can be applied to the similar situation. Content analysts find themselves to the conveyance of the message. The content of message can come from any human information type, such as research paper, books, image, advertisement, or even magazine, and how they could interpret and analyze the content of the message before transfer it to another form of channel until it finally arrives to the receiver, which is human.
Basically, the content analysis is used when, first, the researcher wants to increase in the degree of confirmation of hypotheses that presume to be valid, and definitive disconfirmation of hypotheses that presume to be invalid. Second, when the researcher wants to correct optical illusions, which may be shared by most specialists. Third, when the researcher wants to settle disagreement among specialists as the truth value of certain propositions. Lastly, it is used when the researchers wants to permit the formulation and the testing of hypotheses. Content analysis was born as a quantitative technique. Harold de Lasswell, Lerner, and de Solapool in 1952 said that they are as the founders of the content analysis. Back then, the term content analysis has been increasingly used by students of symbolic aspects of society, particularly in connection with the studies. For the strengths, firstly, content analysis is unobtrusive, meaning that we're not going to collect data from people directly. We could just watching TV, reading newspaper or magazines, whatever it is related to our research questions. Second, it is low cost, because we don't have to pay people to fill in the questionnaire. We don't have to have several researchers. It's pretty low cost. Lastly, it also allows for quantitative and qualitative research. However, content analysis also addresses some limitations. Firstly, time-consuming. It can take a long time to figure out our coding scheme and collect data and code it for however long it takes. Second, there can be coding error, especially with relational analysis, relating how the different codes relate to each other and different people might come differently. Last but not least, sometimes when people do content analysis, they may not take into considerations. People tend to looking for certain words within their coding scheme that doesn't necessarily take into the bigger picture of the context of what's being said.
Okay, so now I will explain to you about the process of content analysis. There are three ways. The first one is research questions. Of course, you need to have a questions of what are you going to have in your content analysis. And the second one is operational variables. This is the process of defining how a variable can be measured. And I will give you an example. For examples, you want to have the content analysis about the advertisements on televisions above 9 p.m. because mostly people who watch televisions in 9 p.m. are mostly adults, so the advertisements mostly cigarettes, contraceptions, foods, or maybe any other commercials. And those are the operationalized variables that we are going to define and how is it going to be measured. And next, you have to define of each of the variables. What is cigarettes, what is contraceptions, and then what is the foods. For example, for the foods it could be McDonald's, it could be KFC, and then for the cigarettes it could be Marlboro or maybe Camel or anything else. And the third step is creating the coding scheme. This is, we will give the definitions of each of our variables and how we are going to code them. Here we are going to determine how many different kind of data you want. In this case, the data we would like to have is the advertisement of televisions above 9 p.m. And next, we are going to determine what time frames that you will collect the data. Is it in the recent 1 month, 3 months, a year, or maybe more than that? And then what channel should we look at? Are we going to focus in one channel, 3 channels, all of the channels in Indonesia? And then those steps will ease us to sampling the data. In the coding steps, we are observing our sampling. So in here, we are going to watch the TV above 9 p.m. and see what commercials appears the most. Is it cigarettes, is it foods, or is it contraception, is it alcohol, or maybe anything else? And then we are going to code the sampling. We are going to quantify the codes and we will look at the codes and sum all of the data. Next, we are going to create the summary, what our codes were. And last but not least, we are going to create the final report. In additions, you can add basic descriptive such as statistics and summary average. And that's it for the process of content analysis. Okay, so that is all of our video about content analysis.
And hopefully it will help your learning activities.